Hi, folks. My name is Samantha Dempsey, and I'm here today as a member of Creature Conserve's Board of Directors. I want to share a talk that I gave at Boston Design Week about the way that we use design as an organization at Creature Conserve. I hope you enjoy. When I was a young designer at design school, one of my professors came up to me and asked why I had chosen design as my profession. I was caught off guard, and so I answered completely honestly. I told them that I chose design because I never wanted to be bored. And I laugh a little bit about this today, but I do think my 18-year-old self saw something true about the design process, even at that age, which is that design at its core is a process by which we solve a series of problems. And when we are successful, we unlock that next bigger and better problem that needs solving. So today, I want to share a story of designing for a series of better problems in that gray space where the natural sciences and design overlap. And I want to start here, which is that science is failing us. This is not because the findings that science uncovers are not correct, or that the scientific process is wrong. In fact, I'm a firm believer in evidence-based decision-making and the scientific process's ability to uncover objective truth. Rather, science is failing to make us care about the truths that it uncovers. We know how to prevent and cure infectious disease, and yet vaccination rates remain low. We know how to stop climate change, and yet our planet's temperature keeps rising. We know how to end mass extinction, and yet we keep losing species. We know how to solve these problems. But there's a gap between what we know and what we do as a species. So facing this failure of our species to act begs the question, what can I do? What can any of us do? What role can I play as a designer? I spent a lot of time working in healthcare, and they have this phrase that I think is really applicable to this moment that they use in healthcare, which is work or volunteer at the highest level of your licensure. And what this means is that when you have a surgeon, you want that surgeon to spend most of her time doing the highly complex, difficult surgeries for which she is trained to do. You want her working at that highest level of her licensure rather than spending her time putting on Band-Aids. And when I apply this concept to designing for wildlife conservation, it makes me focus on the impact I can have on this problem. Because there's a fixed number of hours in my life that I can spend in the service of wildlife conservation. I can spend those hours doing things like pulling up invasive species or cleaning a river, which are important and wonderful things to do. But as a designer, I can create more impact if I work at the highest level of my licensure. Those limited hours that I have are going to have bigger ripples if I spend them doing what I'm highly trained to do, which is design, research, and strategy. So I've had the opportunity to put this concept into practice as a board member at Creature Conserve. And Creature Conserve is a nonprofit that's growing a creative community that combines art with science to cultivate new pathways for wildlife conservation. And I've been on the board here at Creature Conserve for the last 5 years. And so I want to share the story of how design, research, and strategy has changed Creature Conserve over those years. But first, I want to introduce you to what Creature Conserve is today. So the reason we exist is that wildlife populations are declining around the world because of human impacts. Every single one of us is part of this problem, and yet too few of us are part of the solution. At Creature Conserve, we believe that now is the time for an inviting and inclusive approach to conservation that is open to, and in fact requires, diverse perspectives from the arts, humanities, sciences, traditional ecological knowledge holders, and beyond. And so we are growing a creative community that combines art with science to cultivate new pathways for wildlife conservation. And when that happens, what will the world look like? We envision a world where everyone works together to make saving species and their habitats more accessible, meaningful, and relevant for all. And to bring about that future world, we bring together artists, designers, writers, scientists, traditional knowledge holders, and other experts in a supportive, welcoming space to learn about the threats to wildlife, share empathy for animals, exchange ideas, and find opportunities for growth at the intersection of art, science, and conservation. And why art science as the thing that we support? Because we believe that by combining art with science, we make it easier for everyone to explore the human connection to nature and create new pathways to a healthier world for all animals, including us humans. And there's one piece I always like to point out when I introduce Creature Conserve, which is that we are talking about art-science collaboration, which is different than science communication. Science communication is most often a scientist hands an artist a white paper and says, make an infographic out of this, that type of exchange. Whereas when I'm talking about art science collaboration, I'm talking about scientists and artists engaging as equals and exploring the scientific and creative process together. That's going to change how they both understand the work that they're doing. Specifically, it's also making space for the artists to ask new questions and really get at the heart of what matters about the science, giving them the freedom to find the spark of what inspires them to make art and follow it. And we do this through 4 key programs, in addition to our social media presence: workshops, scholarships, or curatorial programs on our mentorship. So I want to walk through quickly each of these and give an example of some of our amazing community members. So in our workshops, we bring people together from artistic and scientific disciplines, give them the opportunity to practice the art side process, and have access to critique so that they can make science-informed art that promotes wildlife conservation. We have a great example here of Lee, who met her collaborator Dominic through one of our workshops. Building on that workshop experience, she applied for a scholarship, and they collaborated to create a story in signs to educate visitors to a prairie park about the pollinators and the environment of that specific park. So they used cyanotypes, which are a 19th century photographic process that was used by early botanists, and combined that with modern digital scientific illustrations to bring these pollinators to life and really challenge the way that visitors thought about conservation. Our scholarship program allows recipients to go deeper into that art side process. So we have Anna Marie as an example here, who had a deep interest in the axolotl. We were able to connect her with a leading expert scientist on axolotls in Mexico, and they invited her to come to their lab and spend time collaborating there. So we funded her through a scholarship to go and spend time in the lab, and she's continued to explore this area over several years. She's created this picture card game that you can see here, which highlights the precarious situation facing the axolotls in Mexico City and their shrinking wetland ecosystem. And she also just had her first solo exhibit focusing on this work. Our curatorial program is where we share the great examples of science-informed art with the larger public, sparking conservations and conversations. This piece was exhibited as part of one of our 2 exhibits we had this year, Reimagining Conservation from the Ground Up, which was at Swale House on Governor's Island. And this collection of art asked viewers to consider the role that healthy soil plays in supporting a healthy ecosystem, which in turn supports healthy animals and healthy people. Our mentorship program provides longer timelines for more in-depth collaborations, looking at 6 months, where we have mentors and mentees paired together to work on different collaborative projects. So here we have Marin, who was partnered with a scientist mentor in our mentorship program, and she explored how birds navigate cities and how glass windows disrupt their vision. Created a series of paintings, which you can see one of here, that focuses on the massive loss of birds as a result of building collision, as well as some of the solutions that can be implemented to alleviate it. And this is the slide I'm most proud of in this deck, which is the impact that we're having is real. Since our first year of programming, we've supported over 400 scholars, and these participants are hailing from a diverse range geographically. We've got 3 Indigenous nations and 23 different countries in our participants. And in 2023 alone, we engaged over 31,000 individuals across our programs and communications. So I hope you can look at this and agree with me that the work Creature Conserve is doing is amazing. And what I want to do today is pause on this work we're doing now, this amazing work, and go back to 2019. Because I want to spend the rest of our time together sharing what we've done at Creature Conserve over the last 5 years to get to this point, using design as a tool to grow and focus our organization. So go back, it's 2019. I've just joined the board and I am thrilled about this opportunity to make impact on a problem I care about by working at the highest level of my licensure. And Creature Conserve was 4 years old at this point. We had fewer programs. We only had workshops and scholarships. And the participants in these were fewer and less diverse. And all of our events were in person. And at this moment, I began working on my first problem at Creature Conserve. And this was the problem that we didn't really know what was working about what we were doing or why participants chose us. I really wanted to focus on understanding how well our programs were working for the participants that were already there, knowing how they fit together into the larger picture of people's practices, and what value propositions participants were interested in Creature Conserve delivering now and in the future. So starting to really evaluate what we were doing to increase the success of artists learning and practicing the artside process. And so we were lucky enough to have Sophia as a member of our team who led this research in partnership with our core team. And she surveyed a broad range of participants at many stages in their careers who participated in at least one Creature Conserve program. She was really seeking to understand and compare the desirability of our existing programs, as well as some of potential future programs we were considering running. And so she, in addition to the survey, she also ran a series of interviews focusing on established artists who had participated in Creature Conserve and were already embodying that art side practice in their work. And so she really focused on identifying the barriers to continuing or leveling up their art side collaboration. And the learnings that came out of this are one of my favorite artifacts we've got at Creature Conserve, which is this thing you see on the right called the orbit. And this is really a journey-based understanding of our participants over time. You can see how you can map their path of growth as they move from their first introduction to art science process through becoming leaders and championing it. And to me, this really highlights how Creature Conserve's programs guide them through those transitions, teaching the skills they need to move to that next step. This also pinpointed the gaps where we found that artists had difficulty moving from one level to the next. This was especially true in supporting our established artists who were experts in kind of moving to that next level. The barriers we found were actually more focused on the professional skills rather than the skills of practicing the art science process. This also helped us see how participants at different places needed different things from Creature Conserve, and overall helped us change our perspective. We were not just offering a collection of programs. Looking at this, we could see how our programs locked together to form a path. And this is really the first time we saw our collection of offerings in a human-centered way. For the very first time, we could see how the work needs to connect to human lives in order to impact non-human lives. So coming out of this great work, we established some new programs, specifically our professional development modules. And these are, they help build the professional capacity of established artists by teaching the skills that they were struggling with. So again, focusing on those skills such as honing your pitches and proposals, research ethics overall, what are leadership's essentials and more. And so we hired our established artists to teach each other and the rising generation of artists moving through the orbit, these professional development modules. We also established our mentorship program as a result of this, which was able to focus on helping people have that leadership development and creating space for experimentation and collaboration on that longer time. And this led us to the next and bigger problem, which was we developed and delivered these programs over the next couple of years. And in 2023, the problem changed. We had artists and writers moving successfully through our orbit. We had solved that previous problem. And so this next and bigger problem presented itself, which was that there were not enough scientist collaborators. Really, scientists were becoming the bottleneck to our continued growth. We thought we'd be attracting scientists as we grew in the same rate we were attracting artists. So we were surprised that this was now our challenge. So we needed to understand the experience of scientists who had already participated in our programs, looking at their motivation, barriers, and the larger context of how creature conserve fit into their work, so that we could increase the number of scientists who were participating. And so to do this, I led a series of interviews with scientists who had participated in a program with us, asking them to reflect on their experiences, trying to understand the most important and the most challenging aspects of their work. And we did a couple different things, including a card sort comparing value propositions. And coming out of these interviews, we had some learnings that there were some meaningful differentiators between scientists, that we needed to start segmenting how we looked at and served scientists. For example, institutional alignment and the stage in the career of our scientists really impacted their willingness to try something new and kind of out of the ordinary, like collaborating with an artist. We also heard that they wanted types of collaborations that we weren't offering, specifically looking at longer timelines. So how could there be an art-science collaboration that happens at the pace of science, which can be on the scale of years as opposed to the pace of art? And we also heard that they wanted to bring artists and writers into the collaborations earlier. They wanted artists in the room, helping them define the study itself and the problem to be solved, rather than just coming at the end to help show what had been done. And so what we took out of this was that we started writing these new value propositions that were focused on scientists, understanding what value we could deliver to them, and started planning new programs specifically about serving them. But these actually aren't the biggest outcomes of this research in my mind. The biggest outcome was that we realized the next and bigger problem, which was that we came to the realization that we couldn't decide what parts of the value propositions to deliver to scientists because we lacked a framework by which to make those decisions. There were just so many different directions we could take it. We were serving an entirely new group of people. How could we choose the right direction to go? And so we realized that we needed to take a step back and clarify our mission and our vision so we could use them as a tool to help us choose what to do. And so this year, we have embarked on a strategic planning process to prioritize the opportunities for delivering value to scientists. And I have had two wonderful experts leading this work along with myself, Trish Silber and Maeve Donahue. Trish worked closely with the 4 members of our core team who each lead a different one of our programs. And she crafted with them an overarching vision for what creature conserve could become, as well as a vision for what each program could become in support of that larger picture. And Maeve, with my help, led a series of workshops with our core team, as well as our board of directors, looking at and utilizing the impact model canvas to refine the problem, the mission, and the measures of success that we've been using as an organization. And what we learned from this process really comes back to impact, which is that we cannot measure success in direct impact to conservation at Creature Conserve. So our success metrics cannot be the miles of land that have been conserved or the number of gorillas that are alive. Rather, our impact is inside of the humans who participate in the programs or who view the art that we support. And so we have to measure our impact in how we change people's understanding of science, their role in it, and their willingness to take action based on it. And so you can see that we've embodied this new mission in the new mission statement that we wrote in these workshops. And we're really focusing on helping people find and forge their own pathways and providing a community where they have the support to figure out what that looks like for them. And the actions that came out of this, we are in the thick of it. So we have our clarified and focused mission. And we're actually starting to plan some studies that will help us understand the types of art that have the biggest impact on viewers' understanding of science and willingness to take conservation action. So looking at how we can create a tighter feedback loop, helping artists and scientists focus their collaborations on creating this type of art. And so we're really seeking to help people find their own path and making conservation a part of their lives. And so when I wrote this talk knowing that I was going to give it to a room full of designers, I said, what is the action I want them to take? What do I hope they take away from this? And I urge you all, designers or not designers, to consider how you can create impact at the highest level of your licensure. Because the skills that we have can change the organizations that are working on the problems that we care about, especially in the natural sciences. Because we are the experts at designing for humans, and it's humans, not science, that are now the bottleneck to creating evidence-based impact. And so how might you go about starting to work or volunteer at the highest level of your licensure? I encourage you to ask yourself these questions. What's a problem that I care about? What organizations are working towards solving that problem? And how can I support that work at the highest level of my licensure? And if Creature Conserve is working on any of these problems that you care about, I invite you to come work or volunteer with us. We are thrilled to be bringing a new core team member to focus on the design process in this summer to continue the strategic design and research work that I just shared today. This designer is going to help us answer the question, how might we amplify Creature Conserve's work, bringing it into new settings and reaching different kinds of people? They're also going to help us focus on creating a new pathway that's specific to designers. So how can we bring designers into the collaborative conservation process in the same way that we've done for artists and writers and scientists? And so you really just saw the first version of the prototype of that designer pathway. This work that we've been doing for the last 5 years was the prototype. And now I get to invite you to help us take another revision to get to V2. So if you are a designer and you're interested in being part of this work, shoot me an email. Like I mentioned, we are going to start kicking this off in the summer of 2024. And this is the next and bigger problem. We've been working on this work for 5 years, and now we get to figure out how to bring more designers deeper and deeper into this collaborative work of conservation. And this whole story is really just about unlocking that next and bigger problem with each success that we have. And this heartens me when I think about the vastness and the complexity of the issues we face in the more than human world of today. Because I think perhaps these problems have been set before us because we have earned the right to try to solve them. And solving these problems through the lens of design is the work of a lifetime. And I can honestly tell you and my younger self in design school that in pursuit of this work, you will never once be bored. Thank you.